Here we go.
Are we live?
We're live.
All right.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We're running a little late. Thank you to Brian Jones, the MVP. Please let a friend know that we are streaming live. Real Talk Wednesday is going down. I have the man that needs no introduction, our very own mayor. Mayor Christopher Taylor is joining me tonight for some real talk. So please let a friend know that we are streaming. We are back. We're on. Looking forward to having a good discussion tonight. Going to give you all time. I appreciate your patience tonight. I only got one text tonight, 2 texts. Thank y'all so much.
They knew it'd be rolling in.
Yeah. Oh, man. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for your patience. I appreciate you, sir.
It is my pleasure. You as well. You know, it's a new world, a new day. We're just trying to make do. Trying to get by.
Exactly. So let's see here. So just letting some folk come on again. Please tell a friend that we are streaming live. Real Talk Wednesday. Deacon Dawson D, I see you. How you doing, Brother Selton? How are you? Hey, Reverend Pat, how are you? I'll get with you tomorrow. Got your email. Praying for you. Brother Bill, how you doing, man? Thanks for being patient, Bill. Hey, Sister Amer. Hey, Sister Johanna. Dr. Woods, how you doing? Hey, Sister Alita, how are you? Please let someone know that we're on. Thank you for your positivity, Hugh. God bless you too, brother. God bless you. Thank you, B. Jones. God bless you, man. Please let a friend know that we are on, running a little late tonight. We appreciate your patience. God bless you. Hey, cuz from Cincinnati, how are you? God bless you. Hey, man, Brother Mashad, how you doing, man? Pastor, God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Cousin D, how you doing? Mr. Mayor, we should be, by this time, we should be deep into our conversation, but we're going to go ahead and let it ride.
You know, that is all right. You know, we, with the pandemic, we all have added levels of flexibility. just every we know that if we under normal circumstances we'd have been going to and from different places. This is the
Right.
time that we would have been in the car. So we're saving
Right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. We're saving time. This is the time they'll be rolling in anyway.
Yeah.
Well, look, we want to jump right into the conversation again.
Yeah.
Welcome to Real Talk Wednesdays. I am
Thanks a
Dr.
lot.
Stephen J. Daniels, Senior, the lead pastor of the Second Baptist Church of Ann Arbor, and I am delighted that you have joined me tonight. Again, this is Real Talk Wednesdays, where we come together as Christians sometimes to study the Word, but also in this season that we're in to have dialogue about the things that concern us. And so pray that you've enjoyed the guests that we've had on. Last week we had the pleasure of having the Ann Arbor Police Chief Michael Cox, and Sergeant Corey Mills joined us last week. And tonight we have, it's my distinguished pleasure to present our mayor of Ann Arbor, Mayor Christopher Taylor. And I gotta tell them this, Mr. Mayor. We've been trying to hook this up since May, and I think you had a scheduling conflict. I had a scheduling conflict. Then everything just broke out, and so
That's right.
I appreciate your patience and rescheduling and letting our schedules come together. So again, we thank you.
A bread that rises slow rises well.
Oh, I like that. So listen, for those of you who are streaming tonight, I want to be able to take your questions. Have some questions that we're going to get into with Mr. Mayor. Please, my only thing I ask my beloved family that are streaming right now, please proofread your question, because remember, I'm reading it. So I want to read it in the way that you are asking it, and I don't want to take anything off. So please make sure that you check your question, and so that I can ask Mr. Mayor your question. And so also, for those of you who are streaming and you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. If you want to still have your question asked, please text the word Real Talk, one word, REALTALK, Real Talk, to 21000. Again, text the word Real Talk to 21000, and you will come in. Your text will be received. You will remain anonymous, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can tonight. Well, it's Wednesday evening, and you know how we do. Let us open up with a word of prayer. Father God, we come thanking you for who you are. God, we thank you for this moment that you've given us tonight, Lord. We thank you for our distinguished guests, Lord. And God, we ask right now that our dialogue would be positive, Lord, that we would be enlightened. God, we thank you for this platform that you've given us called Real Talk. And so, God, we ask right now, Lord, that everything we say and do, Lord, would be with respect, honor, and that we would show your name the respect and honor that's due, Lord. And so, God, we thank you. All glory belongs to you, God. And we thank you for this moment. Thank you for keeping us safe thus far. And again, I thank you, Lord, for allowing me to facilitate this discussion. Lord, this is our prayer in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Again, I say good evening, sir. I know you don't like when I say that, but good evening to you. I just believe in giving respect where respect is due. So let's just jump right into it.
Absolutely.
With everything that's going on in our world,
yeah,
I would love to hear what your philosophy of leadership is. What does leadership look like to you? And the reason why I ask is because I just feel that if I have counselors, if I have folks who are telling me this is what we need to do, and we can get past this if we do this, this, and this, but I'm not willing, either because of vanity or ignorance or what have you, to do what my counselors. The Bible says that kings should have good counsel. Before a ruler goes to war, they should have good counsel. You need to surround yourselves with folks that will give you wise counsel. And so I just feel a lot of the foolishness that we endure right now could be different if leadership was modeled. So I want to ask you, what does leadership look like to you, and what's your philosophy of leadership?
Yeah. Well, first off, before getting to that, and I'm delighted to do it, I also want to, in turn, sir, thank you. It is a, it's my real pleasure to have the conversation. I'm delighted to be asked. I'm delighted to be here. And so, thanks.
Thank you so much, sir.
You bet. All right. So, philosophy of leadership. I guess maybe I'm going to kind of try to reframe that a little bit to how do I approach the job? And I'm sorry, I've got 3 cats. One of them never sees them. You never see him. The other one kind of quiet. One of them constantly around. So, so he's knocking to the screen. He's walking around. He'll give up after a little bit. But if you see the screen jiggle, that's why.
Okay.
You got to approach it from a couple of different ways, right? You have to. I think a leader has to have some kind of vision for where you want to go, some kind of notion of what the common good is, and where the common good should land in this context. A good leader has to, and this gets to your opening, has to understand that. Well, shoot. I mean, who among us knows everything, right?
Right.
No one.
Right.
And so there are people with expertise. There are people with experience. There are people with just straight up horsepower that exceed me, exceed anyone. And so it's I think it's really important that that a leader understand that and try to reach out and try to gain the counsel. And honor the counsel.
Okay. In other words, not to put words in your mouth, but
please, someone has to.
Not to put words in your mouth, but if someone told you that you need to wear a mask, then you would model wearing a mask, right?
That if some doctor, if some expert in public health said, wearing a mask is really a good thing in this environment when you're in a pandemic. You would see me wearing a mask. I don't get it. It's just doesn't need to be political. It's just common sense, right?
It's not political. It's life. Exactly. Again, want to take your question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was going to just kind of continue. So also, I think you also have to understand, at least with the city, that there are so many different currents and interests and constituencies that you need to meet. When you're serving as in elected office, you've got a couple of different roles. You've got you've one of your roles is as core representative, right? So you are you're looking around. What do you need? What can I do for you? What do you want? Mm-hmm. And then you're trying to give voice to that, because that's part of the job. Okay. Another part of the job is to kind of serve as a trustee for the place, because you are you're here, you have given authority for a time certain. Mm-hmm. And you're there not for yourself, but you're there for and not even only there for the people who elected you. Right. But you're there for people who were in opposition to you. So you've got that constituent that you still need to honor. And then there are the untold thousands who haven't even heard of Ann Arbor yet. And they're your constituency too, because they'll be coming here in 5, 10, 15, 30 years. Right. And it's important that you take into account that you take them into account as well. So, it's kind of a swirl of interests. It's trying to balance all those things, trying to balance the people that are here now, people that are communicating to you, people that are not communicating to you, because, just because you're quiet doesn't mean that, or going about your business, or doesn't mean you're not a constituent.
Right.
Kind of get all that stuff together.
You know what? And I think we jumped right into it. So let's back up for a second. Can you tell us about just? I just wanted to know about the mask question. I'm done now. No, I'm just joking with you. Can you tell us?
My mom's been making some great masks. They've got she quilts, so they're folded. They're nice. They've got good adjustable
Yeah,
straps.
washable. It's got to be
Washable,
washable.
exactly.
Yes. Can you tell us your journey to becoming mayor? And for those
Oh
who
yeah,
are meeting you for the first time, can you
sure.
just tell us about your rise to becoming mayor of Ann Arbor?
Yeah. So I guess you know, I became mayor so a little bit of the, my history. I became mayor in 2014. I was elected mayor in 2014, but I was on city council for 6 years before that. Both mayor and city council in Ann Arbor are part-time jobs. If you think about it like a corporation, I'm the mayor's the chair of the board, not the CEO. I don't have operational authority over anybody. I don't, like mayor can't hire and fire. Mayor just, chairs city council meetings and sort of serves as head of state of the city. Going back, for me, my interest, I think the interesting question for me, not so much is why did I choose to run for mayor in 2014? Because when you're on city council already, you're always looking at the mayor, and sometimes the mayor's doing right and sometimes the mayor's not doing right. But
Right.
Every city council member has to kind of think, maybe I could do that.
Right.
So that's not too hard a leap. For me, the really hard leap was going from non-elected office to elected office, and I had never pictured myself doing it. I had grown up reading the newspaper, being interested in politics, always liking government, but never really paying much attention to things local. I've been following national, some state, but caring about it. And I have a background in American history too, so kind of I felt educated and learned, and interested, but never pictured myself participating. And I was having brunch at a friend's house one day. This gets to listen to your counselors. I was having brunch at a friend's house one day. In March, I could almost get to the date, but March 15-ish, 2008, and we got to talking about politics. He said, "Shoot, Christopher, why don't you run for city council?" After a time, and he said, "I could never run for city council. That's crazy." And he asked me why, and I gave him my reason. He says, "Christopher, those reasons make no sense at all. Here's how why you would be good at it. Here's how you can do it, and here is why this is the right time for you. So you should move now because petitions are due in 4 or 5 weeks." And so you'd have to move, but this could be a good thing. You should think about it. And so and so I did. And a couple of weeks later, I was on the ballot, and 4 months later, I'd won the primary, and then I was on council. So it was listening to.
So it was something that you weren't even looking for.
Not at all.
What wasn't even on your radar?
Not in the slightest. And actually sort of actively thinking it was untouchable.
Wow.
Like my parents are super lovely people, but they're not joiners.
Right.
They're not like, hey, do this, do that, do that.
Right.
And so wasn't quite there. It really took someone saying, hey, dummy, give it a shot.
Now, are you Ann Arbor born and raised?
I am not. I born in New York City.
Okay.
My parents New Yorkers from Manhattan and the Bronx. Grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, suburbs of New York. Came here to Ann Arbor for college in 1985.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife's a townie. She grew up here. Graduated community high. So I have some connection just vicariously, but no, I don't.
Got some questions coming in. If you have a question, please send your question in, whatever digital platform you're streaming us from. Please send your question in, and I will try to get to as many questions as I can, along with the ones that I have as well. This is coming from Reverend Pat. She said, are you looking into ways to reduce the cost of water and multifamily housing since the Citizens Committee that worked with the Water Department recommendation was rejected? Ooh.
I actually think that, I guess I'm a little, water rates, let's see, a good question about water rates. So I'm pretty sure that there is a current controversy among some council members who believe that our current rate structure is improper.
Okay.
Our current rate structure is designed to align the cost of providing the service, the cost of the water, to the cost of, to the customer. It's our obligation to link those things. It's an obligation to link the cost of service with the customer. And so what we've done is we have divided up among categories that we can identify. So like basically single family homes and duplexes are in one category. Multifamily homes are in another category. Commercial enterprises are in another category. What we've seen over the course of this study, which occurred, I think, a year and a half ago, is that for years, multifamily homes have been subsidizing the water for single family homes. Multifamily homes have been subsidizing the water to single family homes because their rate, because it if you think about it, it costs more to deliver water to 1,000 people in single family homes than it costs to deliver that same water to 1,000 people in multifamily homes, because there are pipes going all over this, pipes going all over my neighborhood, and there's one big pipe going to the multifamily, and it's a lot harder to keep track of the multi pipes versus the single pipes. And so we've aligned it so that if you live in multifamily homes, that your rates actually have relative to two years ago, they've gone down because you are no longer subsidizing the cost of supplying water to single family properties.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Got several. So
that's all right.
Tell me, how has the pandemic affected the city of Ann Arbor specifically? Like to hear about that as we approach. Too long. 1, 2, 3. What are we going into 4 months? 4 months of. We can't call it a new normal because it's not normal yet. So no, we haven't settled in yet.
Far from it.
So tell me how, in your eyes, from your view of leadership and all that's entrusted to you, as you said, the trustee. How has the pandemic affected Ann Arbor?
Right. Well, I mean, it hits on a couple of different levels. First, and really importantly, of course, it hits people, right? Mm-hmm. There are some people who have been personally sick, or loved ones sick, or are tragically lost, and so that's the first thing that comes to mind. Next to we all know this. It's been incredibly disruptive from an economic and social perspective. People have lost their jobs. People's jobs have been reduced. They've been, already trying to get by, and now that's all the double harder because of the pandemic. And so so that's hit people, by the thousands throughout the city. The social connections that we all love. I mean, one of the great things about our town is its places of congregation and our opportunities for congregation, and the joy that we all get from congregation, and that's been lost. And so those things are all hit very hard. The vibrant downtown is a very different place than it used to be, and so that too is a harm. As an organization, the city. I think the city government has been okay. It's about a 750 person operation, and we moved to decentralize, fast, hard and fast. Right. And there were some stumbles and bumps along the way, but for the most part, I think we were able to continue to provide most services in a recognizable and credible way, pretty much throughout the operation. We didn't, we had 1 or 2 cases in our employee set, but we managed to decentralize quick enough so that we didn't have any major problems there. Okay. And we continue to do that. I mean, some of our services are diminished, day camps, some park activities, pools, but for the most part, the things that the city still needs to do, clean water, wastewater, stormwater, police, fire, recycling, compost, solid waste, that's still very much on the regular. Okay. As a budget, The city.
I was coming with that next.
Yeah,
Fiscally.
I know. Fiscally,
Fiscally.
Fiscally, it's not so awesome.
Yeah.
We don't have a sales tax in the city, but reduced economic activity over the course of the state reduces sales tax to the state, and that reduces revenue sharing that comes back to the city. So we expect to lose a couple of $1 million there. We also, and this is really where our biggest hit comes, is from downtown parking. The city of Ann Arbor gets around a 20% cut off the top to downtown parking, and that's to the tune of many $1 million a year. And so during these past 4 months,
nothing,
not so much.
Yeah.
During the next couple of months, trickle. So we expected in the past fiscal year, which ended just yesterday, to lose our general fund has around $114 million total, around $95 million on a pass-through. We expect to lose there around 5 or 6 million this fiscal year, 7, 8. So that's a hit. What we're doing to accommodate is we are postponing some capital projects. We've got a road paving, moving a dirt road to pavement that the residents were interested in. We're shifting that. We'll be probably slowing down some raises for our outstanding employees, which is something that we're being forced to do. And you'll hear me talk about some. You'll hear me if you hear me talk about the city enough, you'll say we've got our troubles, but you wouldn't trade ours for anyone. We've got budget problems, but I still wouldn't trade ours for anyone. So, one of the things we're going to do in order to meet this deficit both last year and this year is with respect to our pension and our retiree healthcare plan. In both cases, we have over the course of years put in programs to accelerate payments. The actuaries require us to pay X. We've been paying X plus a couple million. We do this to make sure that the system is good for our employees when they retire, when they need that health care. Okay. We're taking a break from that this year. This is not the year to be socking away a little extra. This is the year to be, grabbing onto something and holding on. And so that's what we're going to be doing.
Okay. Got another question coming in. You still You still got juice? You good?
Oh.
Okay. I got a question. This is coming
I'm just getting warmed up.
All right, now. This is coming from my friend, William Anderson. He said, Mr. Mayor, are we getting Riverside retail shops and restaurants, and when?
I hope so.
You hope so?
I hope so. So there is the biggest bit. So there are two areas where we look to have this. First is along kind of North Main, right? I know that there's been chatter about stuff going on North Main. I don't know where it is. So, a better mayor would have a better answer on that. But I can say that the DTE property, if you think about the Huron River, if you think about where the Argo Dam is and where the Cascades are, across the way there's a desolate, clearly blighted property. That property is owned by DTE. They have some pretty ambitious and I think exciting plans about how to fix that. There'll be some residential, there'll be some commercial, there'll be some restaurant, and there'll be acres and acres of public open space there. There'll be a hotel. Now, this was, of course, a pre-COVID plan. I don't know whether this gets to the when. Plan? Yeah, pre-COVID. We all, when we say pre-COVID plan, everyone gives a little chuckle, right?
Yeah.
As well, they ought. Bottom line is, this has been something that DT has wanted to do for years and years and years, and they got it through. They got it planned. They got it through City Council on a zoned for the purpose. I don't think there's been a site plan approved and developed and approved, but it is on the way. When will it happen? If without COVID, I would have said it, groundbreaking, this summer next year. With COVID, extend that out a bit. But DTE is not going anywhere. They're not going broke. The land is still the land. The river is still the river. Ultimately, I think we can all reasonably expect, hotels to be a thing again. People are going to need apartments. People are going to want to have a glass of something by the river.
Yeah.
I mean, hang on and it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Hotels will be a thing one day.
One day. I mean, one day people will be able to come to our beautiful city. We'll be able to go to some other beautiful city.
Right. Ugh.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yep. So let me ask you this question. So, nationally, and I asked this question last week, nationally, police departments are under scrutiny, and there has been an outcry that has gone forth to defund the police.
Right.
And so can you explain your interpretation of the funding, and what are your thoughts regarding defunding police departments? So if you could give your interpretation of what it means, and what are your thoughts concerning it?
To my ear, when I hear, I think people say defund police, and they mean all sorts of different things. In order to move that, I think to action, right? I think it means reimagine public safety. We spend a lot of money on police. Like in Ann Arbor, our budget is $30.7 million.
You said that's out of 114, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep. Now the total budget in Ann Arbor, the total budget is like 465.
Okay.
So the 37 is out of the total budget 465. The general fund is 114.
Gotcha.
So I think when I hear defund police in a conversation, I think it's reimagine public safety. We ask police to do a lot of things that don't call for police. Right? I mean,
can you say that again for the folks in the balcony? Can you say that again for the folks in the balcony, please?
I will. We ask police to do things that don't call for police. And
my God,
we ought to have when you call 911, I mean, they should say, do you need an officer? Do you need an unarmed intervention? Like, do you need someone to come and a social worker to help the guy who's having trouble on the corner? And that's I think how that's reimagining public safety. It's what do we do with our 30.7 million? What do we do with our other budgets to better align how the community wants to be kept safe in all its respects? And how can we move from our current model, which involves sending officers out to do things that they weren't trained for, they're not ideal for? How can we better suit the bill? How can we better make people feel safer and actually be safer?
And so help me out, because I'm listening to you, and then I'm thinking to myself, I'm going back to what you just said earlier. The way the governmental structure is set up here in Ann Arbor, did you say that you don't have the power to fire or hire?
Oh, I don't have the power to fire or hire anybody. That's right.
Okay. So the governmental structure is so for in Atlanta, and this is great. Like it might be some folks that they're not typing their question they have for you anymore, because that's really a game changer.
Why am I talking to this guy if he can't do anything? I think that's what they're saying. Who is this joker? Get me the guy who has some clout around here.
I wasn't ready for your response on that. So no, seriously. So I'm just because you're helping me, because we look at I can't think of her name right now, but the sister in Atlanta, we look at the mayor of Atlanta, where she's the boss, terminating the commissioner. She's the police commissioner. She's firing officers. She's doing whatever she has to do. Or what she thinks needs to be done. And so the governmental structure there is set up different than it is here.
That's right.
Okay. So when people protest and say power to the people, it really takes on a whole new meaning here in Ann Arbor.
It's a very different operation.
Wow.
That mayor in Atlanta and in many other large cities, they have a strong mayor system. Mayor hires, fires. Mayor's a full-time job. They are the operation, the chief executive officer. They are the head of operations. Everybody goes up to them.
Wow.
Lots of small towns and cities have, like us, have a weak mayor form of government. That where the mayor is, the mayor, of course, has a role, right? I mean, the mayor is the only person elected by the community. They have a certain head of state function, but in terms of actual authority, not so much.
Wow.
My actual authority is that I chair city council meetings. I nominate members of boards and commissions who are then approved or rejected by city council, and I can veto things, which can be overridden. That's all that I can do on my lonesome. Otherwise, I work with the city council. The person who has that authority in our system is Tom Crawford. He is our interim city administrator. So the city administrator is the chief executive officer.
Okay, because that question just came up, Elder. I see you. Sister Angela, thank you. That's Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms out of Atlanta. I could not think of her name. So thank you, Sister Angela. And Elder, I believe that question was answered. That is by the person that hires and fires the title is the city
administrator.
City administrator. Okay.
That's right.
Gotcha.
And the city administrator is hired and fired by the city council as a whole. And so we currently have an interim city administrator, and so we're undergoing a search now to fill that role on the permanent.
Okay, so let's go back. Okay?
Yeah.
So you gave what I believe is an awesome answer to reimagining policing, right? But what you're saying is that for that to happen here in Ann Arbor, it would take members of city council who are willing to reimagine as well.
Ultimately, of course, that's right. I mean, I also think it's important that this I think gets to leadership and having good counsel, right? I surely I've been around. I'm just some lawyer who got elected. I'm not an expert in this. I don't have enough of the my lived experience isn't universal, right? There are members of the community, whole swaths of the community that interact with public safety in a way that I haven't and I won't. And so it's really important to me that our public safety system have be designed to meet all those different needs, be designed to provide optimal, efficient, and equitable service for all its purposes to all its constituents. And I know that I'm not I'm not able to lead that or envision that in its totality. I think that the reimagining of the public safety department, I think, should be community led. I mean, I think that we have expertise in the community. I think we should, where we don't have it, we should hire out. But I think that we have parts of city government, parts of boards and commissions, in particular, the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. I would hope that they would would take the mantle of working to reimagine with the community, with based upon on people's experience, help us reimagine how this project can be affected. I think that we need to make sure, like I said a bit ago, that that the public safety works for everyone. That we're asking people to do things that they're trained for, that they're equipped for. That we're making sure that that people know when they call for help that they'll get the help they're looking for.
I hope my friend Shad Evans is still streaming and he heard that, because I think that Pastor Evans, you're helping me, because for the average person who may not know the way the government is, local government is structured or led.
Yeah.
I think you just opened a lot of eyes for those who don't know. There are some who will say, oh, I knew that already. Great. But I'm saying for those who don't know,
people's lives are full, and it's not always full of local government, and that's okay.
Yeah. So So the hiring and firing of officials is done by the city administrator.
That's almost entirely correct. The city council hires and fires the city administrator and the city attorney. Those are the only two positions that the city council hires and fires.
Okay.
Everybody else ultimately reports to the city administrator.
Okay.
A couple of positions that the city administrator fills need to be ratified by council. I think that the police chief and the fire chief. City council can't fire the police chief or the fire chief. The administrator can, but the administrator can't hire them without council's consent.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a technicality. Point is that who's the boss in the city? The city administrator is the boss.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank for me.
He'll be on next week. He'll get the real story.
No. So getting back to the question I had, and we talk about social injustice, we talk about systemic racism, and so that's the question tonight. Is what is Ann Arbor doing to address social injustice and systemic racism?
Well, I mean, we are doing, I think, a lot of different things. First off, we are, I think, acknowledging it, right? I mean, you cannot address a problem if you don't name it, if you don't confront it, and you don't admit that you're like, for me, it's beneficiary. And so, that is something that, that I think is my obligation to do personally. And I think as a city and a community, it's our obligation to do for those of us who are the beneficiary of systemic racism. We need to own that and not be blind to it. I think as a community, as an organization, we've got a couple of things. I think on the soft side, I think we always have to express our values. We always have to, when we get the opportunity to talk about what it is that we believe, how we believe in a society built upon pluralism, built upon experience, and respect for others, and an embrace of the other. Each of this is, I think, at the core of the municipal value. I think it's at the core, in its best of senses, in the community value, and it's important that we always state it. With respect to things policy, we on the city side, we are making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion are part of our way of doing business. We are developing a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan for the city. Municipal government lives on plans, and that's what we're doing for this area. But we're not waiting around for it. We need to make sure that each of the areas where we operate, goes through with this lens. So, it's a small thing like our urban forestry management plan. We have street trees, and now one of the things I'm proud about is that we're able to take care of our street trees in a way that we haven't before. But as we go about planting, as we go about trimming, we need to make sure that we catalog trees, and that where areas are under canopied, it probably won't surprise anybody to learn that our under-resourced parts of our community, or underprivileged parts of our community, are places where there are fewer trees. Well, that's just unacceptable, right? I mean, so we need to make sure that that's where we focus our planning. We need to make sure that housing is such an incredibly important part of this calculation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we in Washtenaw County, we're the 8th most economically segregated county in the country, right? The 8th most economically segregated county in the country, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that leads to some pretty serious, racial and demographic segregation. Because America, and so what we need to do.
I tell you what. I'm gonna interrupt you quickly because I want to talk about that housing piece is important to me. So we're gonna talk about that housing piece, and I appreciate you a few years ago, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I
Yeah,
gotta say this to you.
please.
It was very disheartening a couple of months ago. I think I came to the I guess I don't know what it was. It was a hearing or something. I think you're being Zoom bombed. I think somebody wants your attention. But it was you good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. It was disheartening because I went and sat in a city council meeting, and I saw a group of people sitting behind the desk, and I realized that none of them looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
And as an African American man, that was troubling that there was no representation of African American people on on City Hall. Now, I'm sure someone would say, "Well, someone needs to run," but I'm just, I mean, what are your thoughts? Because in order to address, in order to even begin to address the systemic issues that face the African American community and minorities, you have to have some voice that's on there, like John the Baptist crying in the wilderness.
Yeah. We are underrepresented. We do not have. The city council doesn't look like Ann Arbor. And that's you are right. We have had folks run. Ron Ginyard ran in 2018. Don Adams ran in 2014, I guess it was. And I think we need more people of color, more Black people, more running for office. Hopefully too, even before that, as we have boards and commissions that work on all different important parts of city government. We have a Parks Commission, a Housing and Human Services Advisory Board, an Energy Commission, Environmental Commission, a Housing Commission. What's incredibly important is that we have commissioners that look like the city that we represent, that are able to bring, as you were saying, that voice and experience and perspective that that people like me don't have. To build a better place. Because if we don't have that breadth of experience, we don't have that breadth of input. Nothing. What we do will be incomplete.
So let me ask you this, and so because I just saw a question, and it kind of goes with so the question is, what does equality, what does equity, diversity, and inclusion mean to Ann Arbor? People say that, but how do you define it, and what does it look like? That's coming from Sister Angela Johnson, but I'd like to piggyback off that as well. So I'll let you answer that, but I have another question for you.
Okay. So what does it mean? Well, I mean, to a certain, to some degree, it's, and you're getting at this. It's just representation. It's numbers. Like that the municipal organization, in all of its facets, in its workplace, and its elected and its appointed positions, that it looks like the city it represents, that it reflects the experience of the people that it represents. It also, I think, there's a soft ethos to it. I think we need to make sure that that Ann Arbor is a place where everybody feels that they belong, right? And that's one of the most disheartening things that I've heard in as we get in these sorts of conversations. It's people who might have grown up here, whose families are from here, or people wander in for school, that they think about making their lives here, they try to make their lives here, and then they kind of just I don't feel like I belong here, and that's just heartbreaking. And so that gets to the inclusion part. It's incredibly important that people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, that they believe and it's real, that Ann Arbor is a place for them and that it welcomes them. That's really our value.
I've been here 5 years.
Yeah.
My family and I, we moved here from from Virginia, which was the heart of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
But in Virginia, and I tell people this all the time, we lived in a neighborhood where our neighbor had a Confederate flag on,
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. I just know that I can't come to your house and ask for sugar, and you shouldn't come to my house and ask for a cup, either. But that's neither here nor there. My question is this to you. So going back to what I said earlier about leaders need counsel. Who, if any, African American leaders do you reach out to get a pulse, or do you?
I guess I do. I don't want to,
You don't have to say.
I'll tell you on the later.
Yeah. You don't have to say names. I just wanted to know. Do you?
Yeah. The bottom line is absolutely. I mean, there are people to whom I turn. I've got to. It's a complicated question, right? Because I mean, people don't speak for everyone. People have their own individual experience, their own individual perspectives, and as a white man, I try to learn, but I also recognize that the people to whom I turn for counsel, they're speaking with a perspective that I will never have, and so I generalize it a little bit, but I also know that generalization is unfair at the same time. So there's a tension to it.
Well, I want to say publicly. I want to say publicly, you have my number, and I am open.
I do. All the time.
I know you worship with us. You stream with us every now and then. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, you call me.
You got it.
This is coming from my fraternity brother, Don Adams. You know him. You know that guy?
I do indeed. I just name checked the gentleman.
Yeah, you did. That probably made his an evening. I got a joke with me.
Mr. Adams, it's good to hear you.
He said to ask, can you tell the viewers watching how to get involved with the commissions that you mentioned, or even with local politics? We don't get involved because we don't have people that look like us on the other side. That could be a spark to get in our community more involved.
Yep. That's a great question. Thank you, Don. I guess with respect to boards and commissions, the city has a large number of boards and commissions. They focus on things like parks, energy, the environment, planning, the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board, the Housing Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, the Housing Board of Appeals, the Historic District Commission. These are citizen advisory, more accurately, community. It's not even resident. It's not citizen. It's not resident. It's community members. Because you don't need to be a citizen. You don't need to be a resident. You just need to be part of the community. In any event, they're places where people participate in local government in areas of that interest them. I guess I'd hop on the city website. That's a2gov.org, a2gov.org, and check out the boards and commissions page. See what commissions are that interest you. Look to see if there are vacancies, and lob in an application. It's a pretty simple process. It's it's just a browser. It's a couple of browser fields you fill in, throw in a resume, write up a little note about what it is that you're interested in, and then your application's in. I guess I'd also say that, for many of these boards and commissions, I'm the person who nominates. Not all of them, but for many. And my door is always open to talk to people about anything. I have regular office hours every Friday. Call my assistant Christine at 794-6161, 794-6161.
I bet she's happy with you right now.
She is happy with me.
Sent that out.
Absolutely. Make an appointment. Come talk to me about what interests you. And I'll try to, I'll try to see what comes next. I've been so delighted to get to know people through that process, and to ultimately, be able to put them on boards, as a result of that process. One of the things about being mayor that I really enjoy is meeting people that would never cross my path otherwise. Right. And this is a great opportunity for that. Right. So that's one way I think to get involved in boards and commissions. I guess if I can just chat a little bit further about that, you can go directly to the boards and commissions. You don't have to be a member and nominated and approved by council to participate in a subcommittee. So all these commissions have chairs, right? So if you're interested in the parks, or you're interested in the environment, and you see that there are no vacancies for a couple of months, or for whatever, contact the chair of that commission and say, look, I'm interested in volunteering in this area. This is something that moves me and I want to get involved. Shoot, they'd be delighted.
Yeah, definitely. Someone said, Reverend Pat said she'll be calling you.
I look forward to it, Reverend.
She said she'll be calling you.
Please do.
So, and you might have we might have asked this again, but I answered this before. That's right. I'm gonna ask it again. How would you rate race relations in Ann Arbor with African Americans, and what informs your rating?
Well, I guess what informs my rating is what I hear, and so this is where well, shoot, I should be asking you this question.
No.
No. I mean,
no, I'll go. You go first.
Yeah, I'll go first.
I'll go.
Here's what I hear. Here's what people tell me. People tell me that Ann Arbor's America. And so America was America was founded on white supremacy. America suffers from white supremacy to this day. Our social systems, healthcare, education, law enforcement, housing, finance, the economy. I mean, white supremacy and race-based stratification was the goal for our system and structures for centuries and decades. And just because we are realizing that now more and more doesn't mean that the society that has come from that and the people that have come through that doesn't make them perfect. And so, so how do I feel relations are in Ann Arbor? I think that I think my impression is that African Americans would say that Ann Arbor does better than most, but Ann Arbor doesn't do enough.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn.
Please.
I think one of the beautiful things about being here is being an outsider, because when you've lived other places and you come to a place, then you're able to bring a different point of view to it. One of the things that was presented to me when I was in consideration for becoming the pastor at Second Baptist of Ann Arbor was the school systems, was the way of life, the freedom, all the all of that, and I found that to be true. Where I think Ann Arbor could really use some help. And this is what with another city that I had the pleasure of living in. I went to school in Norfolk, Virginia. I went to Norfolk State University, right near Virginia Beach University, or Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I'll never forget, as a freshman, we had been to the ocean front. That was a cool thing to do. We had gone to the ocean front and gone to the beach, had a great time. Well, we were in class one day, and the teacher, one of my professors, said, "Yeah, you guys, you know about the Virginia Beach they want to show you, but you don't know about this part of Virginia Beach." And she started putting pictures up. And I'll never forget this person from out of town, another student who was from out of town. She asked a question. She said, "Virginia Beach has hoods?" Because all we had seen was the tourist Virginia Beach. And I find that a lot of folks that I've encountered live in that bubble. I said it on the Housing Commission when I first came. I said, I don't know how it's been able to. I think there was even a reporter trying to bust the bubble or trying to understand, like, where does this go? But it seems like I've encountered quite a few people who have been in a cocoon, if you will. And that's good. You know, I mean, it has its advantages and its disadvantages, but sometimes you got to get out and go other places. So I think what you said is absolutely true. I think, you know, it's better than a lot of cities that I've lived in, but still a lot of work to do. You know, my administrative assistant will tell you, when I first came here, I said to Sister Robin Lucas, I said, "Take me to the projects." And she said, "Excuse me, Pastor?" I said, "Take me to the hood, take me to Brick City, take me to the projects." And she said, "We don't have projects here." And I said, "Stop playing. Like, come on, stop playing. Like, take me to the project. Like, take me to what, you know, take me to where it's going down, basically." Because I wanted to see, you know, I wanted to understand this thing called Ann Arbor. And when I tell people that there are no government housing here, like, for me, being on the Housing Commission, that's still amazing. That I live in a city, I live in a county that doesn't have government housing. And like I said, we're going to end with the housing questions, as I'm on the housing commission. We're going to end with that, but that's my it's an amazing sense of nirvana. But it's you know, once you see, I guess for me, Mr. Mayor, and we'll move on. I probably would still be in that cocoon, but fortunately I got on a commission and I saw how the sausage is made. You know what I mean?
You know, I mean, they're all people there. Like, everybody's a person, right?
Yeah. So, you know, when you get to see, you know, how the sausage is made, it kind of changes your perspective a little bit.
Hey, before you move on, I do want to catch one more thing on the state of things in the city. And I guess this gets to the inclusion part, and this gets to, you know, how we are as a community. And, you know, I mean, I came here in '85, and I really didn't get started until 08, and then you know, all the more in 14. So, you know, you know, one thing that I sense is that, you know, in the African American community in town, that there's a little bit of sense of loss. You know, that the gentrification hits the community hard, and there's an increase. And this pivots into your housing question. So maybe it's less of an interruption, more of a segue. But it you know, like, it's a place where families used to be, and they're not there anymore. And you know, it's a place where, you know, people look around and say, maybe this isn't the spot for me as a consequence. And you know, I think that hurts relations. I think that hurts the vibe, that hurts the community. And you know, that of course impacts the African American community the hardest, because that's the community that's experiencing, but it diminishes us all. And I think that's one of our challenges as a government.
Yeah. And you know what? It's almost 8:30, and I told you I had you from
No,
7
no,
to 8:30,
no.
so we started
You
late. So no,
you
I'm gonna
you
be
keep
I'm gonna be true to
you
my
keep
time.
going. You keep going.
Um,
I don't even. I put some tape over the clock. I think it's 7:40. I think it's 7:55.
I appreciate that, sir. So let's get to the housing question, because I've had
Yeah,
a lot of people, and I don't want them to think that I didn't that I saw your question. I was going to get to that. That was my question as well.
yeah.
First of all, let me just say that I believe in 2017, 2018, 2017, um, we had our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yep.
celebration at the Second Baptist Church of Ann Arbor. And
Hmm.
this young man got up, and I don't know if you remember, Mayor, but he got up and he talked about how he was a student at University of Michigan, but he couldn't afford
Hmm.
rent in Ann Arbor. And so he had to, he was living in Ipsy. And
Yeah.
so very intelligent kid. Didn't keep in touch with him. Pray that he went on to graduate, and that he's doing big things in society now. I pray that, but I didn't get a chance to keep in touch with him. But nevertheless, I got up, and it was so funny because it was a march for Dr. King, but it was a primarily Caucasian audience in our fellowship hall. So that was kind of, messing with me as well.
Yeah.
And so I got up and I just said, I don't know if you heard this young brother, but he said that he goes to school in a city, but that he can't afford to live in.
Hmm.
I must have got pretty passionate because the next thing I know, I was receiving correspondence from Sister Ann Brown and Sister Robin Lucas, saying that you wanted to talk, and I think we talked, and you suggested that I get on the housing commission, because I had told you that I was at a point where it was time for me to get involved in civil service. So
Hmm.
um being on the housing commission has been
Yeah.
a blessing. Thank you for the recommendation and
Well,
whatnot.
thank you for doing it.
It's the third Wednesday of every month, and of
Hmm.
course we have this going on Wednesday, but my congregation has allowed me to serve, do my civic
Good.
duty.
Yeah.
um it's been interesting, and there have been many, and I love Jennifer Hall. Jennifer, if you're streaming, God bless you. um but there have been many nights when I've left just saying, wow, when you hear that there are what uh 5,000 people waiting for 300 openings,
Hmm.
things like that. And so the
Yeah.
question that I've gotten this evening is, how does the city plan to provide or address the housing situation? And if you could just share that with so many, because I've received so many, even anonymous text with that question.
Yeah.
How does the city plan to address that? I know the city is trying to do some things, but that is a area where you know um,
Sure.
that goes back to the cocoon I was talking about,
Yeah.
and when you discover how the sausage is being made.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we have a couple of huge and structural challenges in Ann Arbor, and housing affordability, the availability of housing, is at the core of so many of them. And so, what are we doing in order to expand affordable housing? Uh, we well, we Our tools are limited, but what we can do is build housing and allow for the building of housing. Build housing and allow for the building of housing. So, for us, the city has it's probably it's the juiciest bit of the resource. Well, it has two major resources where it comes to this. It has land, and it has the right to basically do what it wants with that land. People out in the market, they have to follow the zoning. We control the zoning. Uh, so, so, if we have property, and it's suitable for housing, it's safe. It's on a transit line. The pipes can get there. The cars can come in and out of the place. The buses come in and out of the place. We have the ability to use our own financial resources to get resources from other players and to build housing. And over the past couple of years, we've really, I think, taken that to heart. We had a major housing study done, which was finalized in 2015, and identified that we in Ann Arbor need to have 2,800 units of new permanent affordable housing over the next 20 years, and now next 15 years. And we haven't done super well, but what we have done is I think have set the stage. You'll see that we have run through basically all city-owned non-park parcels, all city-owned parcels, and we've identified this would be a good spot for housing. The Y lot, this would be a good spot for housing. 721 North Main, good spot for housing. 415 North Washington, suitable spot for housing. And what we need to do,
the neighbors don't feel that though.
No, then trustee, representative, trustee,
I got that intel. The neighbors on Main Street, and
no, they don't always like it. And this gets to what kind of representative are you? Are you here for the today? Are you here for the tomorrow? Are you driven by only the electorate? I mean, the electorate is important. Never get me wrong. Like, it's important. Like, we're here. We need to. How do we feel about it? But we are caretakers. We don't own this place. We're just borrowing it from somebody who's going to come after us. And
how do we? And let me ask this: as a city, how do we counter the attitude of this is the way we want it to be? We want this area to be selective. We want, we don't want government housing. We don't want subsidized housing. We don't want that. How do we offset that? And I know you can't change the heart of men and women, but how do we offset that? Because I haven't attended many meetings, but it seems to be the prevailing theme that I hear in our meetings, that it's going to take some folks on these elected positions to understand the humanity of and the need of it. Yeah. And maybe they're representing, their constituents or the people who voted them in their in their ward. But how do we offset that?
Yeah.
That goes back to a foundational, again, we're talking systemic, right? That goes back down. Yeah. That goes back to a foundational mindset and principle.
Mm-hmm. Like, what's your value, right? I mean,
exactly.
Is your value, maintaining some sort of, hewing to the people that got you there, being their voice on the council, or are you there to, to be part of ensuring that or working, ensuring as if we could ensure it, part of working to mold the community to be a place that fits your values. Okay. That I think is how you have to express it, and you have to have some confidence that you're doing the long-term right thing, and the fact that it may have short-term consequences, is something that that's part of being an elected official, and a part of being an elected official is understanding that that you're there for the community as a whole, not just the people that put you into office. It's personally, it's a little bit of a hard road. One of the hardest parts of being elected officials, when you disappoint people who've supported you, when you disappoint people whose good opinion you value, if you do so because you made mistakes, okay, well, we all make mistakes. If you do so because you are maintaining fidelity to a larger, more important principle, then I think that your path is to articulate it, and hope that in some small way and through some measure that the people who are frustrated with you today will at least recognize the source of the action, and will take a new view of it someday.
We got work
Maybe
to do. We got work to do.
we got work to do. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We have work to do.
Reach out to people, because not everybody.
Yeah.
We all talk about listening to people, and listening to people is incredibly important. But we tend to listen to people who come into the room. We tend to listen to people who show up, and the way that city council works. All too often, at least pre-COVID, and now less so. But if you're not free to come in and wait 6 hours to talk at a city council meeting on a Monday night, your voice isn't quite so loud. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what set of people have time on Monday nights to come and drive to city council and wait there for a couple of hours and say their piece and go home. And some of them, so, and this is not to diminish people's participation. Come participate, but the way that this is structured diminishes the ability of people who've got to get up and work at 6 a.m. to come in. People who've got young children to come in. So
I know I couldn't stay there that night. I went. I said, you know what, y'all. Y'all crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to fight you on that.
And it's like when I saw that agenda, I said, man, they still have a long way to go. Couple more. We'll take a couple more. If there's anyone out there, as we get ready to wrap up with Mayor Taylor, again, we appreciate Mayor Taylor being here with us this evening for Real Talk Wednesdays. You can also text your answer. If you want to remain anonymous, you can text Real Talk to 21000. Again, that's text Real Talk, one word, to 21000. Question I saw, this is coming from Brother Brandon Lucas. Do you support the goals of the Police Oversight Commission? I
guess I don't know what specific goals are being addressed, but broadly speaking, I think that I'm delighted that we have the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. I think that they have an incredibly important role to play in being. I think they could and often could play and that do play an important bridge between the community and the police department. I think the goal of the commission, as I gathered it, was to improve, get to a place where there's a greater trust and confidence in the police department. And that comes from, letting police and government, people like me, hear about the experience of people with Ann Arbor police specifically and policing generally. And so that's incredibly important. I think it's also important for the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission to communicate to the public about what's going on in the police department. We often, when I showed up as on city council in 2008, 2009, like all too often, I would say, why are we doing it that way? And the real question is, why are we doing it that way? Because I found at least that there's not always, but there's often a decent reason why this thing that didn't quite seem right at first, there's a history to it. There's a reason why we got here. And sometimes that reason's good and sometimes it's not so good, but at least understanding it helped me engage with the issue, gave me a little bit more confidence that even if I didn't like it, that there was a reason for it. And I think that's another one of the great things that the Police Oversight Commission can do is to be that communication coming from police to the public, so that the public understands a little bit more about law enforcement.
Saw another question coming from
Sister
Dina. Who are you endorsing for prosecutor and why? Have you endorsed anyone for prosecutor?
I have not endorsed anyone in that race. I will say, the Slay and Mr. Savitt, I know them both, and I have the highest respect for them both.
Okay, all right. Sister Askew King, I'm trying to understand your question. If you could give me a little bit more. It's a housing question. you could give me a little bit more so I can go on Faye, ask you, King. I'm trying to understand your question as we get ready to wrap up with Mr. Mayor Christopher Taylor. Again, thank you, sir, for joining us. If there's anyone else I want to ask, don't want to leave any questions that you may have. Hope that I've been able to get to as many as possible. And sir, we just appreciate we appreciate you just taking time just to sit down and you told me that you could handle it, and you have, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Well, me too.
I'm just trying to go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's you appreciate me. It is my great pleasure to be here. It's we all too often, like, we don't really have conversations, in politics and in our political environment, and I think it's really important, and it's really useful, and I'm just glad of the opportunity. So thanks.
We need more of this. I know this won't be the only time that we get together and sit down. I want to thank you. I know you, like I said, I know you worship with us virtually sometimes, so we appreciate
it's absolutely
that.
True.
And I got to say this, you've been there from the first moment I was introduced to the congregation and introduced to yourself, and you've been there to celebrate monumental moments to celebrate with us, with me. And so I think that means a lot. And I've always been impressed that you stay into the benediction. I just preached about you stay into the benediction. So
yeah, that's the good part.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No point in slipping out.
Some folks get out of Dodge. They say what they have to say. And all right, let me see. Most of the nonprofits that provide shelters have advocated for the city to build affordable housing on the old YMCA lot in downtown Ann Arbor. What are the current plans for that lot? Thank you, Sister King, for sending that back in again.
Great question. There are that plan is underway. I don't have a time frame for it, but that's the juicy bit. Like, that's the place where I'm hoping that we can I mentioned the 2,800 units. I'm not telling you we're going to get it taken care of there, but there need to be a lot of units in affordable housing at that location. It will not be exclusively affordable housing. The way that this works, and this, this from talking with Jennifer, Jennifer Hall, the executive director of the Housing Commission for others. Yeah, she is. That you have to have a mix, right? You have to have some market rate units, some affordable units in a development in order to make the numbers work, and in order to make the numbers work. And so I'm expecting this to be a development of some mass. I think I want it to be nice. I would love to have the AAATA, give us some air rights over there, over the Blake Center. If we maybe give them a lane off to the south, that way they could pull some of their buses off of the street. We could, have some interesting retail on the ground floor, affordable housing, some market housing on some upper floors. I think that's a place that could sustain a substantial building, and would be a really good thing. It's so important that that people who work in Ann Arbor be able to live in Ann Arbor. People who work in Ann Arbor be able to live in Ann Arbor and not use a car getting from where they need to go. It would just be a really good thing, and I'm committed to trying to get us there.
Awesome. Can y'all do me a favor, those of you who are still streaming with us, can you just put some hands up in the chat, and just so when Mr. Mayor goes back and looks at this on YouTube or Facebook, he'll see that you guys were rolling with us. So can we just show our appreciation virtually for Mayor Taylor being here with us? Mayor Taylor, again, thank you so much, sir. God bless you.
Pastor, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Enjoy your holiday, and thank you for your patience tonight.
Not in the slightest. Yeah.
And thank you for your patience and picking a good time. I'm sure you can agree, and I appreciate you understanding my heart when I reached out to you and said now's not the time. We just need
no. Yeah,
I needed to let it breathe. I needed healing. It was too much going on, and so I appreciate.
I'm grateful for your thinking.
Yes,
for your thinking of me, and
yes.
Thank you too again for the invitation. Anytime you've got a guest drops on you, Give me a ring. I'll be there like that. We're gonna do it in a second.
Will do. Well, look,
Right.
family, we're going to pray. And again, sir, thank you so much for being with us. God, we just come thanking you for the ability to dialogue, Lord. We thank you, God, for difficult conversations, Lord, that need to be had every now and then. And so, God, we thank you. I pray, Lord, that tonight was enlightening for some. Pray that they have a greater understanding, even how government works here at the local level. God, I pray that tonight, Lord, someone made the decision that they were going to look into being a voice and becoming the change that they want to be. And so, God, we thank you again. God, continue to bless us and keep us, Lord. Help us to remember, God, that we are all your children, Lord, that we were all created in your image. And again, God, we thank you for Mayor Taylor, Lord. We pray blessings upon his family. And God, I pray blessings upon those who have connected with us this evening, Lord, as we get ready to disconnect and go our separate ways. Be with us now, Lord. This is our prayer in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Wherever you are, can you just lift your hand with me? I call you blessed in the city. I call you blessed in the field. I call you blessed when you come and blessed when you go in the mighty name of Jesus. I love you all to life. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you for being patient. Mayor Taylor, I will talk to you soon, my friend. God bless. Enjoy your holiday. Take care.
You as well.
All
Thank
right.
you.
God bless you all. Love you to life.